Okay, so I would like to just, repeat again. There is an I. Okay, not that you fall into nihilism. It's very, very important. But to really understand what is being negated, I mean, you need to hear this a few times, and then we have the habit of jumping to conclusions that we think we know, and then, one has to be very humble with this. And also, as I said at the beginning, I'm not the best of teachers, so to explain this. But you do exist. I mean, there is an I that exists, but not the one that we think exists. And we'll do a reflection on that. Maybe it becomes a little bit easier. So it's good to just remember these words. What is negated is not an I totally, or a self. What is being negated is an I that exists independently, permanently from its own side, like under its own power. That is being negated. So with objects, sometimes it's easier to understand. So if I show you this, what is this? Exactly. This is, and it appears as being a real, independent, totally self-existing A. We don't see that. Actually, it's just, what is it? When we look further down, we start to break it down. What is it? Huh? It's lines, for example. Is it lines? The lines, where is the line? Is the line here, or is it here, or is it here, is it, where is it, the line? Can you find the line in the line? When you break down the line, what you will be finding? You will find ink. The ink also needs paper. So what appears first is like the mind goes A, and that would be an A that exists from its own side. If nobody saw me painting it on the paper, then you even, of course, the moment you start analyzing, then we start to understand what we're talking about instincts here. Yeah? So what appears is a real A existing from its own side, as if the A is coming from here to you. Yeah? And we don't see that actually the A is just lines, and even the lines you can break them down, but then what you need for this A to be an A is a mind. So it's your mind who is making the A. Otherwise, if you're a fly or a mouse or a cat or whatever, I don't know what they see. This is when they talk about the mind creating reality. It doesn't mean that there's nothing that exists. So when you look for a really existing A that exists independently, means it could exist without somebody looking at it as an A. That's what it means. So then you break it down. Is the A here? No. Is the A here? No. Is the A here? No. So you don't find A anywhere really existing in its parts. But anyway, we'll come to that, I think, tomorrow, when we break it into parts. Yeah. So we don't find it anywhere. So kind of, it is as if the A doesn't exist, the A disappears. But that would also be wrong. You're going too far, because there is something here. So then, with this understanding, what arises is a dependently arisen A. Then you start to understand reality, that everything is depending on things. Like Thich Nhat Hanh, if you read his book, The Heart of Understanding, it's so beautiful. He doesn't talk so much about emptiness. He comes from the view of dependent arising. So he is going like, in this sheet of paper, there is not one atom that is paper. Yet we say, what is this? Paper. Yeah? But if you look at it, the whole universe is in this. Yeah? Because you don't see the tree where it comes from. You don't see the people who planted the trees. You don't see the whole Mother Earth who needed to make this tree grow, like with warmth and rain and wind and the earth itself and all this. You don't see the parents of the one who looked after the tree. You don't see the parents of the one who cut the tree. You don't see all the people who made the food for the one who looks and cuts the tree. You don't see all the parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. You don't see all this. It seems as if it's a real piece of paper. And you cut it into small pieces, you will not find the paper. Yeah? because maybe with the paper it's a bit more difficult. With the pen it's quite easy, you know. Again, when I go like this, what is this?
Pen.
A pen. And it seems again that it's a real pen, standing on its own, not depending on anything. And it appears like this. It is real, but it's not true, because when you look for the pen in the parts, you cannot find one atom that is pen. So where did the pen go? Did it jump out? Is the pen non-existent? Now the pen at the moment is non-existent, because parts of pen, when they are apart, is not a pen. Yeah. And then the illusion is that when the parts come together, then it becomes a pen. And that is the appearance that we find as totally real, which is not true. Because if there is no pen in the parts, how can it be a pen when the parts come together? And the problem here is it appears as totally like this. Parts are together, of course it's a pen. Parts are apart, it's not a pen. But the pen didn't go anywhere. And that is so difficult to understand. So please don't fall into nihilism that, okay, then nothing exists. Because when one talks Buddhism, or even science, I'm not sure, but I could imagine, you talk about two different levels of reality. You talk about the conventional level, that things exist and they have a function, but they do not exist the way that they appear. Because things appear as separate from our mind, being independent of their parts and particles and function, all this. You know, because I can ask, you know, you can say, okay, the pen also, in order to be a pen, it depends on the function. But what if this one is empty? Yeah, so there's no more ink. Is it still a pen? Huh?
Yeah.
You say this. Have you been to India? No. If you go to India, it could well be that somebody sells you a pen, a new pen, with an empty thing of ink. You would go to the shop, you would say, this is not a pen. So is the pen in the ink? No. So you see, you examine these things almost ad absurdum, that you look everywhere and you can't find it. And our habit of seeing because when I talk like this, it sounds easy, yeah? But our habit of seeing things existing from their own side is so strong. The spider will do this afternoon. Do we have somebody who's afraid of spiders? I hope we have. Because it's good for them to see. You know, I have a device here, which there's a spider inside, but it's made of plastic. And also it's just a protection, because it projects it to the upper part, but it's on the lower part. So it's very interesting to see what the mind is doing. So if you are afraid of spiders, even you know the spider is on the bottom, but it's projected to the upper part like a hologram. Even you know that the spider is just a projection, and if it's real, it's only plastic. And if you're afraid of spiders, your fear of spiders is so strong, you cannot get yourself to touch it. That is the power of habit. And since beginningless times, this is where, you know, this is why samsara is beginningless, and Rinpoche Tulku said it. And it makes so much sense that where's this beginning, you know, they say, where did it all begin? And he says, misconception is beginningless, because you cannot have a right conception and then a wrong conception. If you believe that the rainbow is true and you can touch it, this can be, as long as you don't touch it, this misconception can be there. And you can have that longing for the rainbow and all this, and you keep running after rainbows, and you keep running and running and running, until you start to understand the rainbow is not material. Yeah. So once you have understood, you cannot go back to thinking that he is material. Once you have understood, once you have touched it, maybe rainbow is not a good example, fire. If you don't know that fire burns, that misconception that fire doesn't burn is there until the moment that you get burned. And you cannot go back to a misconception. That's why it's beginningless. As long as we're still under the influence of these negative emotions, we do not see reality as it is. We don't understand. We might understand in the head, but we haven't realized it. And so don't be afraid. For this to become a realization, it will last a very, 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 very long time. Until you lose your independent, from its own side, autonomous existing I. You have short moments when you lose it. And this is what we're going to do maybe in the reflection. And next time you go and sports is really good. Sports, dancing, painting, something that you really know how to do and you enjoy doing. And while you do it, there is no concept of I or me yourself, and you feel great. You see, sometimes in Tushita, we always, at the beginning of the course, I don't know if anybody's been there, I don't know if they still do it. I haven't been there since 12 years, but then we make this circle, and people say, you know, I'm here for this and this and this, and many people say, I'm here to find myself. You're here to lose yourself. Because the more I, the more ego, the more complicated my life becomes. The more I'm open and I'm free and I'm really spacious for whatever is there, the more easier it becomes. And sports, because we need to concentrate, is a very good example. That for me, skiing was skiing. I'm not skiing anymore. It's like you have moments where you totally oneness with your skis, with the snow, with your boots, with everything, and it just flows. You don't need to do anything. It just goes. Then you go, ah, this is great. Finished. Because again, you make the split. I am skiing. Whereas otherwise, you just ski. Love, compassion for a child. When you are totally wanting the child to be free from suffering, you can totally forget yourself and lose yourself. It is pleasant, even though the child is suffering. But when you start, my child is suffering, oh my gosh, what shall I do? What can I do? And all this, when you lose that being oneness, when you lose that connection, when you again make that split, there's problems. Yeah? But don't think that you cannot function without an I. Don't think that. Because the conventional I is always there. I mean, it goes with the body and the mind, the mere I, the labeled mind. As long as these parts are together, the merely labeled pen exists and can write. Do you see that it's not easy to understand what exists and what doesn't exist? Yeah? So once you have made the first step, once you have made the step to understand what is being said is not there. Nobody said that things don't exist. That's only what you hear, but this is not what I'm saying. What did you hear? I'm saying there's no self. I said there's no real self existing from its own side, autonomous, under its own power. You know, that can exist without the body and the mind. I said this one does not exist. The self that is depending on the body and the mind, that one exists. But the self manifests itself as if it's the boss, if it's the owner of the body and the mind. And that one feels real, but it's not true. Because if you just say I, it has no meaning at all. If you say I'm walking, yes, that has a meaning, but it's not the I that is walking, it's the body that is walking. Yeah? If you say I'm thinking, yes, that has a meaning, but it's not I that is thinking, it's the mind that is thinking. If you say I have many eyes without being a psychopath, or how do you call these eyes, these people who have different personalities? What's the name of them? Different multiple personalities, you know. If you are aware that we have different eyes without being a multiple personality and still being able to function, you're okay. Because in all these different eyes, there is not an essence I. That is the absence. That is the emptiness. We have all these different eyes who also don't exist from their own side, and there's no super I. There's no dominant I who possesses all these other eyes. Do you understand? At least the words. Okay, let's try to detect. Let's try to see. Yeah. And as you saw maybe before, you know, when we say I am special, we become like, ooh, yeah. And we had a very nice joke there in Monty Python. Would you like to repeat it again? Monty Python movie? The nice
one of the movies.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be special.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yes. Did you hear it? That in Monty Python, like they say, everyone wants to be special, and somebody, one person holds up their hand and says, I am not. Yeah. People can be very, very proud of not wanting to be special. But really, not being special makes you very special. If you can go with the flow, and you know, like other people also have needs, I'm not the only one, and all this, you become a very, very special person and a very valid, valuable, beneficial person for this universe. You know, if you have new needs, you can say, okay, I can still survive. It's okay, I can survive. It's like that, and you know, you can trying to fulfill the needs of others without it becoming an obsession. You know, if you do it in a very natural way. Like parents do. Parents have no problems in fulfilling the needs of their children when they feel that these needs are helpful for the children to be happy children. You don't feel like a friar because they get the last piece of cake, do you? You're happy when you see them that they're eating with it a lot of pleasure. If it's somebody that you don't like, and you know, we said these self-centered people, they're always in the groups, always at the beginning of the line, and always grabbing the best stuff, and you see that he or she got the last piece of cake, you're not happy when he says, wow, this cake is so good, even you made it. If it's somebody that you dislike, do you see what I mean? If it's your kid, or if it's somebody that you like, and they say, even, you know, you went without cake, but if somebody that you like very much and they say, wow, the cake is so good, you don't need that piece of cake to be happy. But it needs to be the right person who says that. And who is choosing who is the right person to say that? The ego, the I. Let's call it dominant I. So, okay. So the dominant I does not exist. The dominant I that comes up and then appears existing from its own side, takes up all the space in here. That one does not exist. Then, of course, you know, you say, well, you have to go in steps. You have to go in steps and you know, believe in an I so that, you know, totally disappear. Because also, people who have borderline, at moments, they have moments of no I. And that's not understanding emptiness. Because they feel terrible. You know? When I talk about moments of absence of an I that we can experience is when you feel totally flowing, totally open. You see what I mean? Orgasm is a moment like this. Because all the channels open. Has to also do with the energy channels that we have in the body. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to let yourself go, drop your ego, otherwise no orgasm. Since you're all grown ups, maybe you know what I'm talking about. I became a nun, I was 40, so I also know what I'm talking about from experience. But not since 30 years, but I haven't forgotten.
Zombieing in front of the television.
Huh?
Zombieing in front of the television. Becoming a zombie?
A zombie?
In front of the television. Watching television.
I don't think that is realizing emptiness. Because then you might identify what was happening in the movie. And I mean, how wrong is that? I mean, that's what we're doing, basically. This is what we're doing. What is happening out there is just a movie, but we mistake it for reality and we become part of it. That is what is happening. Yeah. So no, I don't think that is what I'm talking about. I don't know, because I never became a zombie in front of the world, so I don't know in part of the TV screen. How does it feel? Does it feel good?
Sometimes it's like, you don't, it's like junk food, that you know it's not good, necessarily. You know it's just
That's what's
Filling up
called,
space.
that is what is called addiction. I was an alcoholic, so I also know what it means to be addicted to something from experience. I know how it feels when you don't have to stop. And then one forgets. One forgets that there was a life where I was able to live without that stuff. One forgets. Because the need for it is so strong, and you're covering something up with it. With emptiness, when it's real, but again, don't worry, you will not fall into emptiness and then regret it or something like that. Like it's then the world opens. So don't be afraid, and for it to happen, as I'm saying, either you need to be very good at painting, dancing, skiing, surfing, whatever, or you need to be a very good meditator and really knowing what you are negating. Yeah. So we need to do the reflection also. But anyway, it's like you have this book in Hebrew, and it's called How to See Yourself as You Really Are. And for me, it's one of the best books about what is negated, what is corrected. So I don't know, there's probably not enough copies.
Yeah, they're all already gone, but I think you can order through the website, Dharma Friend's website.
So you can order it through the website. So in order to realize emptiness, you also have to have a mind that is totally aware and totally focused on absence of inherent existence when you don't find the I, when you go through the I. So it also explains how to develop shamatha actually. Again, you can read it, but then you have to do it. Both of these realizations, the Dalai Lama explains it. It sounds very easy. It's very difficult, but it's worthwhile, I think. It's really worthwhile. And then again, you have very sharp people. People are very intelligent who understand. For the Buddha is enough to say, look, there is no such self that exists from its own side. They understand. Then there's other people who are not so sharp. Then he needs to explain first, yes, there is a self, but it's not that self. So he goes from very coarse view to more subtle and more subtle and more subtle. And we know how it is with people who are like having, hallucinations. So if they see what they're telling you to see, if they're not very sharp, if they're not very intelligent, it's no point telling them it's not there. But if somebody is very sharp, let's say if somebody says there's 50 elephants in my room, so you take them to the room, and they might even go like this, and you tell them, look at the door, okay? Do you think an elephant can go through that door? And they say no. Is the door broken? No. So by inference, they would be able to understand, okay, it appears as if there's 50 elephants here, but it's impossible for them to have come into the room, although they appear. So the appearance is not the problem. Mistaking the appearance for real, that is the problem. Because this eye appears all the time, but then believing in it and holding it as real and thinking, I'm the center of the universe, which what it does. And then we include our children, our grandchildren, my friends, and then that's about it. And the friends transmigrate, yeah? Like the grandchildren, the children, they're always there, naturally. But then the friends, some in, some out, some in, some out. Who decides is me. The I. Yeah? So if we would be very sharp, like the Buddha saying that sentence, that would have been enough. He gave 84,000 teachings because everybody understands this in a different way. So this is also a good therapist when he sees that the hallucination, the belief in the 50 elephants as true and not seeing them as a hallucination is not going, then you need to do different means. You say, yeah, they're there, I see them as well, let's make fire, let's beat the drums. And then at the end also he sees that there is no elephants. Yeah, so there's different methods how to get there. So of course, then the Westerners are so sharp that we always kind of explain the most subtle view of emptiness, that there is no self-existent I. So this is why also I said there is an I, which is your body and your mind together. That wouldn't be the view of the Madhyamika, but because also mind and body doesn't exist, really, from its own side. Nothing exists, really, from its own side. So then when you hear this, then in order not to fall into nihilism, that is very difficult. So it's much better to start slow. Like when the Buddha started teaching, he taught there is real, true suffering. There is real, true causes for the suffering. There is real, true cessation of the suffering. There is real, true path. That sounds very real. That doesn't sound very empty. But then when people had understood this, then slowly, slowly they started to be prepared to the Heart Sutra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form is no other than emptiness, emptiness is no other than form. And then he goes, in that Heart Sutra, it goes, there is no suffering, there is no origin of suffering, there is no cessation of suffering, there is no path, there is no attainment, and there is no non-attainment. Then you go, well, what does this Buddha mean? First he says it's true suffering, now he says there's no suffering. Because he's speaking from the two levels of reality. Ultimate reality, where things appear the way they exist, quantum physics, you don't find anything. There it appears as it is. Relative reality, things do not appear the way they exist. They do exist as a dependent arising. This is how they come into existence. Just the two words, dependent arising, is giving you that they do not exist, but they also do not really exist inherently. Real existence means the things are themselves. And if you find them, you have to find them. If you find them. If you look for them, you have to find them. That would mean real existence, not depending on other things. That means if this pen exists really from its own side, it cannot have parts that are not pen. It would have had to be a pen since beginningless times, and it cannot be other than pen. The moment the ink is finished, it stops to be a real pen. Do you see what I mean? So emptiness is the ultimate mode of existence, and it's not added through your analysis. It is always there. Because things are empty, that's why they can exist. If they would not be empty of real true existence, they could not exist. Nothing could grow, nothing could move. It would be impossible for things to exist. And when you go dependent arising, depending meaning they're not existing from their own side. They're dependent on other things, many other things, factors, conditions, a mind who labels it. Yeah? They're dependent. Arising means something arises. Yeah? So something is there. When we say things are, or the person is empty of inherent existence, that means something needs to be there that is empty of. You need to have a basis in order to have emptiness. Emptiness doesn't hang out here as a real thing, and then ignorance is here. It's not possible. These two levels of existence, the conventional existence is dependent arising, and the ultimate existence as a lack of inherent existence, they go together. You cannot separate them. The same way as you cannot separate the impermanence from this pen. This pen is impermanent. It changes moment by moment. Oh, it's metal, so it will take time, but still, it will get rusty at one point, maybe after 100 years. I should have taken something. A flower, yeah? A flower is impermanent. It changes moment by moment by moment. The impermanence is inside the flower, is there. You can't find it. You can't separate it. If you have a person and the emptiness of the person, you cannot separate these two things. If you have a person that exists, that person is empty of inherent existence. That's why the person exists. If the person would not